The next poem is called Stutter. Your brain and voice never manage to get along. Stutter always comes in the way. Vocal cords do their best to vibe. The brain doesn't show interest. Each word, a roadblock, a breath too shallow. Who knew making friends would be this hard? Next poem, moving on, is called Waiting. A window without a view, a house longing to be called a home, a door waiting for a knock, a heart beating because it has to, a mirror in which you can't see yourself, a shadow which unfollows you. As you shift the gaze within, the eclipse comes to an end. Moving on. Next poem is titled Prison. Fear held him captive. He was an obliging prisoner. In prison, he would dig up the past, bury the present. He finally decided to throw the shovel. Fear had no option but to hand him the key. Next poem is Dr. Murli's personal favorite. So this goes out to Sir. The sand at the beach was restless with excitement. A front seat to its favorite music concert. The waves didn't disappoint. Next poem is called Original Sin. Reality walks into a confession room. Father, I would like to confess, it says. I have robbed him of his dreams, clipped his wings before he could fly. Have I sinned? The priest thinks to himself, haven't we all? Tears trickle down her cheek, ever so slowly, like dewdrops on a blade of grass, a child packing her bag, hesitant to leave home. The next poem is titled Mute. A television without sound, a radio with no station. Life as a mute wasn't easy. Thoughts trying to escape the prison in your mind, hoping to find a voice, a place they can finally call home. 18 years is quite a long sentence. Next poem is something, again, most doctors can relate to. It's about, I'll just talk you through it. The doctors had given up on her. It's a matter of time, they said. Little did they know that she had made a promise to death, to look it in the eye. And she soon realized that death isn't good at maintaining eye contact. Moving on to the next one. If words could kill, he would be a prolific assassin, a knife slicing through the present moment of life. This is not a perfect murder. The assassin ends up killing himself, slice by slice. The words still can't fill the void, a void so big that it can hold a billion Milky Ways.
This is the one week before last I said was inspired by ISHAN.
So, yeah. Moving on to a nature-themed poem. The stars shimmering outside, using nature's Morse code. Blink, dash, blink, dash, blink. It is their way of reminding us that we are made of stardust. His thoughts hated traveling. The mind would house them all. Every now and then they would go for a walk to the back end of his throat. At times they would drift a bit further to reach the tip of his tongue, to finally meet with words. Moving on to the next one. Feather dancing to the songs of the wind, suspended in midair. An orange falling from a tree to be reunited with gravity. A pigeon meditating in a terrace garden. A soul listening to the music of the water unstill. Even time reached into its backpack and decided to take a picture. So do we have some more time? Shall I continue or?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Voices in your head. The voices in your head, it's that child who gets detention for talking out of line. The voices in your head love to hear their own sound echo through your doubt. No detention today. Open the textbook. Today's chapter is called Silence. Her eyes held mysteries, mysteries as deep as the ocean. He swam, hoping to stay afloat. No lifeboat, no lifeguard in sight. The shores called out from far away. The spark in her eyes was the first magic trick he witnessed. Festival of lights minus the noise. Ever since then, he has believed in magic, and he knew he was home. Yeah. So this is actually pretty much the list that I've shortlisted for today. So
Lovely, Ishan. Very nice.
Thanks a lot.
Wonderful collection. You've really done it. Yeah, really done. I like that mute. Very nice. Very interesting thought.
Appreciate it.
Whose eyes were you drowning in?
You know, the world needs doctors. Otherwise, you might have been a fantastic poet.
Ishan, what part of the body do you attack?
Sorry, sir?
What part of the body do you attack?
So I'm a pulmonologist with interest in matters of the heart.
Oh God, hey, we got a place in Arbors. Can you please come? This is variety we don't have. But when do you find time to write all this? When you're doing some operation in between, or?
So, sir, actually, funny enough, it doesn't take me too long to, pen these down. So I just get an idea and, I just jot it down. So it's
wonderful.
So I'm glad you enjoyed them.
Excellent.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Do you type it out on your cell phone at work sometimes?
Sorry, if the OPD is not so busy, I guess it's a good stress buster every now and then.
The first one, only the first one, please.
Yeah, the first one. Yeah, I also wanted. It was a good one. It was a really good one.
The Dancers in the Dark?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Dancers in the Dark. When doubt knocks on your door, hoping to get an embrace, do you open your arms and let it rent some space? When fear decides to creep within, you dance in the dark or look within. When anxiety wants to catch up for a beer, do you binge or stay clear? When depression says, long time no see, do you invite it for a cup of tea? When the dancers in the dark ask for one last dance, do you shake a leg and give them that chance? As you shift the gaze and look within, the dancers in the dark stop their spin.
Very nice. Thank you. Thank you.
I hugely appreciate, the very, very imaginative. Each time
Singing in the dark.
Image, and I think the imagery is beautiful. And what I like is it's also very concise. It's not long. This in the Dark is probably the longest. The others are 3, 5, maximum 6 or 7 lines, and they encapsulate a lot. So I really love his poetry. Thanks, Ishan. It's brilliant.
Thank you.
Do you also write longer ones, or it's mostly just 5-liners? And have you written much longer poems as well?
Ishan, we seem to have lost you.
Frozen.
He's frozen, looks like.
So I think Hema also writes when she's knocked a patient out and he's having cardiac anesthesia. I think you're right. Is that right, Hema?
I'm not exactly right in the middle of the surgery. The one that got published in Hindu was written after I came out of the ICU on a paper napkin because you just want to. I was upset, so I wrote that time. So, as my boss said, eventually it was about losing the patient and whatnot. So, my boss actually saw that and he told me, next time pick a patient who lived. And Devi Shetty actually had told me that next time write about a patient who lived.
I think Ishan is back online. Somebody was asking a question.
Yeah, Ishan, can you hear me?
I can.
So I was just wondering if, do you also write longer poetries? Dancing in the Dark was long, but most of the others are small ones. So
yeah, so actually I'm trying to, look into that and probably, write longer poems. So probably build on my...
Yeah, Ishan, Dr. Hema asked you if you write...
Whose connection is bad?
Can you hear me, ma'am?
Yeah, I can. I could hear you clearly, actually.
I got your question. So, yeah, that's actually crossed my mind because I feel I can put together some of these ideas and, paint a larger picture and probably write a longer poem. So I think that's probably something I'm working on. I'm trying to, write longer poems. But I guess for now, this has been, it's been this long for now. So
yeah, these are just your unfiltered thoughts coming and arranging in a verse. Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, but in the long run, I would definitely look to, write longer poems.
Yeah. Great to see you and listen to it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Ishan, on a lighter note, there is a song by the boss, Bruce Springsteen.
Yes, sir.
Dancing in the Dark.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or if you watch the video, you'll know that it's a completely different version from what you brought in. But that's what I triggered when you said "Dancers in the Dark." I said "Dancing in the Dark." I've heard that before, but then what you came up with was like, wow! Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So Dr. Murli said that you've been at it only for 6 months now.
Yeah.
So what, suddenly a dam burst or what happened?
I guess one of those lockdown blessings which didn't end up staying so latent.
Yes. Great. So lots of blessings to count in the lockdown too.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
So one of the things that we did was we've got a Narayan Hridayalaya literary group, books, music and stuff. So Ishan does a lot of his on that and gets a lot of very positive feedback. So I think that's helped him, write more and publish more because I think, we've all enjoyed it so much that I think
the entire team has been more than supportive. So yeah,
very nice.
That's fueled me on. So.
Okay, great. Thank you, Ishan. So I think we'll move on to the next thing. Sujay, you want to take the next shot or is it Lakshmi?
As you want.
Okay.
MC.
Okay. Let's listen to Sujay and then finally we'll come to Lakshmi. Okay.
Sujay, you're muted. Unmute, please.
Everybody is muted.
Yeah, now she's fine. You can start, Sujay.
You're going to be sharing a screen, Suj?
Yeah. Yeah. Shall I start? Unlike Ishan, I don't write poetry. So today I'll be talking about somebody else's poetry. So alienation seems to be on the increase these days. The world is in a state of flux, and I think there's only going to be more and more alienation. So I thought of this topic today. Alienation as a psychosocial problem. Alienation as a psychosocial problem has always existed. Individuals get alienated from their families, from society, and from themselves. And this has been aggravated by urbanization, industrialization, and universal education. So much so that it has become a major theme in modern literature and in the arts. Alienation is a powerful force that often results in self-pity, vulnerability, and violence. However, it can also encourage introspection and individualism. Individuals withdraw into their inner world and explore its nuances. In fact, D.H. Lawrence, who suffered alienation, argued that the world is illusory. He said that there is another world inside that is true and real. His novels deal with psychological traumas that human beings wrestle with. Today, I would like to talk about two policiae, both of whom suffered alienation and are today seen as dominating their chosen fields. The first is D.H. Lawrence, who has had a seminal influence on modern English literature. He is considered the creator of the psychoanalytical novel. Most of his work is autobiographical. I'd like to read a poem of his, The Red Herring. My father was a working man, and a collier was he. At 6 in the morning, they turned him down, and they turned him up for tea. My mother was a superior soul was she, cut out to play a superior role in the goddamn bourgeoisie. We children were the in-betweens, little nondescripts were we. Indoor, we call each other you. Outside, it was da and thee. But time has fled, our parents are dead, we've risen in the world all three. But still, we are in betweens. We tread between the devil and the deep sea. So this, again, is totally autobiographical. And the red herring, the meaning is a red, the title is Red Herring. So it probably refers to middle-class manners that don't really depict the way middle-class people live. A lot of their manners are just show, and when you get to know them better, they're a lot different. I'd also like to read another poem, which comes from a book called The Pansies, also by D.H. Lawrence. Oh, I was born low and inferior, but shining up beyond. I saw the whole superior world shine like the promised land. So up I started climbing to join the folk on high. But when at last I got there, I had to sit and cry. For I wasn't a bit superior, it was only affected and mean, though the house had a fine interior and the people were never in. And there came the saddest day when I had to tell myself, the upper classes are just a fraud. You'd better get down again. So this again speaks of his disillusionment. See, initially, he thinks that when he gets out of his working class environment, he will be welcomed by the middle class, but he finds that he just isn't. Lawrence occupied a no man's land between the coal pits and middle-class gentility. Unlike the other boys in the mining village, he was not content to follow in his father's footsteps. Moreover, he was sickly and he was poor at sports. So he had nothing in common with his peer group, and he was a loner from an early age. Again, his home life was unhappy. His parents bickered constantly, and this spilled over into the children's lives. Unhappily, he says, if I think of my childhood, it is always as if there was an inner darkness, like the gloss of coal in which we moved and had our being. However, he was close to his mother, who imbued in him her love of books and literature. For solace, he turned to writing, but even this was denied to him, though he wrote prolifically 800 poems, novels, short stories, travelogues. He wasn't really accepted. This is probably because of his views on interpersonal relationships, especially on sex, was so progressive that he felt the heavy hand of censorship. He had to publish many of his books himself, which further added to his poverty. In fact, his most famous book, or should I say his most infamous book, Lady Chatterley's Lover, was written in 1927, but was published in England only in 1960, 30 years after his death. Rebuffed by society, he fled England and lived in various places in Europe, Mexico, America, Australia, and Sri Lanka. Always sickly, his health continued to fail, and he died of tuberculosis in 1930. Acknowledgement of his contribution to literature came only after his death. The other colossus that I would like to talk about is in the field of art and painting, and that is Vincent van Gogh. Vincent van Gogh was one of the world's greatest artists and a major influence in 20th century art. He showed that mental illness is not a severe limitation to creativity. He produced 2,100 works of art, most of them in the last 3 years of his life. His paintings are known for their beauty, emotion, and color. He struggled with mental illness throughout his life and remained poor and virtually unknown. His family background was somber. His father was an austere country parson, his mother a moody artist. But she transferred her love of watercolors and nature to her son. In childhood, Van Gogh was melancholic and withdrawn. He was only close to his brother Theo, with whom he corresponded throughout his life and who was his sole source of emotional and financial help. At the age of 16, when he was 16, the family went through a financial crisis, and he was forced to take up a job in an art dealing firm in The Hague. Everything went fine till he was transferred to London. He liked English life, but he fell in love with the landlady's daughter, who rejected him. And he fell into deep depression. He only retained his Bible, and he gave away all his other possessions. This was the first of his many mental health problems. His behavior at work became erratic. He actually told customers not to buy art pieces because he said they were shoddy and inferior. So obviously he lost his job. Van Gogh had a series of failures in his love life. He wanted to help women in distress. He fell in love with 4 women, none of whom reciprocated his love. And this pushed him further into alienation. After his love affair or should I call it, it's probably one-sided, in London, and he lost his job, he taught at a Methodist boys' school and even preached to the congregation. That was when he decided to devote his life to God. In 1878, he volunteered to be a preacher in a Belgian coal mine, though initially he did want to join the formal church and go to the School of Theology. He refused to learn Latin because he said it was a dead language. So the only hope he had was to join as a preacher in a Belgian coal mine. In addition to preaching, he ministered to the sick. You know, Vincent van Gogh never did anything by halves. He went totally into his job as a preacher, and he again gave away all his possessions, and the miners called him Christ of the Mines. The evangelical committee felt that his preaching had taken on the tone of martyrdom, and they refused to renew his contract. He was again without a job. At this juncture, on the advice of his brother Theo, he took to art, and he was determined to create happiness by creating beauty. His art helped him to stay emotionally balanced. He moved to Paris later, where he came under the influence of Gauguin, Degas, Pissarro, and others of the Impressionist school. So he found that unlike the Dutch school of painters who painted in dark colors, these people painted in bright, lively colors, naturalistic colors of nature, and they paid a lot of attention to the quality of light. But here again, he got into trouble with some of the other painters because he was rather rude to them about his art. And he also became interested in Japanese art at this time, and he wanted to move to Japan. But Toulouse-Lautrec told him that the quality of light in Arles in southern France was very much similar to that in Japan. So he moved to Arles, and he took a house there, and he wanted to kind of start an art school, a school of art where all painters would paint together and discuss art. So he called his friends from the Impressionist school of painting, Gauguin and the rest of them, to come stay with him, paint with him, and discuss art at night. But at this time, he spent all his money on art supplies. He ate very little, mainly bread and a little bit of coffee. He drank absinthe. And later on, he even started eating paint and sipping turpentine. Obviously, his physical health went down. He became very weak. His mental health also suffered. And his brother Theo really got worried, and he paid Gauguin to go over to Arles and take care of his brother. Again, he got into a quarrel with Gauguin, and Gauguin walked out of the house. He chased him with a razor, and he wanted to call him back. Unfortunately, Gauguin turned, saw the razor, and obviously there was no coming back. Now, Van Gogh cut off, in a fit of remorse, he cut off his lobe, the lobe of his ear, and he went to a prostitute and gave it to her and said, "Take care of it." So obviously the whole of Arles was shocked and horrified, and he was institutionalized. Now his mental and physical health deteriorated further, and he became more depressive and delusional. The people of Arles signed a petition to say that he was dangerous and that he should be moved out. One Dr. Gachet from Aubert agreed to treat him because he had dealt with similar cases earlier on. So Van Gogh went to Aubert and he started painting furiously, almost as if he knew that his time was limited. On July 27, 1890, he went out to paint with a fully loaded pistol. He shot himself and was admitted to hospital. His brother Theo, his sheet anchor, was sent for again. the brothers spent 2 days talking. On the 29th of July, Van Gogh died in his brother's arms. He had lived in penury, his brother's pensioner, but today his art is amongst the most expensive in the world. I'd like to share a couple of his paintings with you. This is the Starry Night Sky. It was painted in 1889, an oil on canvas. And this is considered to be Van Gogh's magnum opus. It is a highly surcharged, highly emotional painting. It is typical of Van Gogh's post-impressionist style, impassioned brush strokes, intense color, layers of thick paint, dramatic, lyrically rhythmic. And it's unusual for a person to paint a nightscape because there are no colors at night. In fact, he's spoken about this earlier, but he had also said that painting is exaggeration. It is part imagination and part memories. He said that the sky was more colorful at night and the different stars were illuminated in different colors. He said that the more he looked at him, the more he dreamt. He told his brother Theo that he wanted to travel to the stars, just like people travel to various places in France. The scene before you shows the sky in turmoil. The sky is in swirls, illuminated by stars and the crescent moon. In the foreground, there is a cypress tree which is flailing. The cypress tree seems to be a bridge between the earth and the sky. The only thing that is silent and quiet is the man-made village. There are various interpretations of this poem. One being the Christian interpretation, which says that this represents the agony of Christ in the garden. People say that Van Gogh himself was thinking of his death, and so it was also his agony. Van Gogh was also reading Walt Whitman at this time, and Walt Whitman believed in the correlation between spirituality and nature. Nature was all-powerful and domineering. Even here you see that nature is in turmoil, whereas the man-made village, the man-made construct, is quiet, almost cowering on the earth. So perhaps this was a painting about man and nature and the spiritual relationship between man and nature. Some scientists believe that the effect in this painting is due to lead poisoning. After all, he ate a lot of paint, so he did have lead poisoning. And they say that the yellow colors are probably due to the lead poisoning. Psychiatrists believe that it was just plain hallucination. The other painting I would like to share with you is Wheat Fields with Crows. This was probably his last painting and was considered one of his best. Van Gogh was always fascinated by the countryside, and he said that it was definitely more powerful than the cities. The picture we see here is not your usual landscape. Landscapes usually portray calm and serenity. Birds there are usually flying in one direction. But here it shows the sky again in turmoil and the crows flying hither-thither. So some critics say that this is the portrayal of a disturbed mind with suicidal thoughts. But Van Gogh was also a Christian who really believed in God. He gave his all to Christianity. And probably there's a lot of Christian symbolism also. Wheat for Van Gogh represented regenerative power of life. The storm is death, and The crows are like dark, menacing angels. So the storm probably represents death, the wheat, life, and the crows are a Christian symbol of rebirth and resurrection. So Van Gogh has probably painted a scene of creation and destruction. For after all, both these are simultaneous in life. Even the statue of Nataraja shows both destruction, the dance of the Tandava shows both destruction and creation at the same time. Painting and art, after all, is personal. So it is something different to each of us. I hope you enjoyed this.
Thank you, Suj. Very nice.
Thank you.
Very interesting thoughts.
Thank you.
Very nice.
Very informative as well.
Thank you.
Sujaya, there was only one thing in, I think the Van Gogh Museum in Amsterdam. There used to be one, you know, in some of his paintings, you could never make out where he had signed. And you had to really go through the whole thing before you could see that. That was his kind of quote unquote secret.
That was,
you know, I think
Van Gogh.
he was a very modest person, and he wanted to always identify himself with with ordinary working people. And if you notice, he never signs Van Gogh. It is just Vincent in one corner.
Yeah.
So probably because he was a shy and retiring type, perhaps. I mean, that's all I can think of.
Sujaya, your DH reference. Sorry.
Yeah.
Rajita, go ahead.
No. Complete what you're saying.
No, what I was saying was most of these painters never made money. It was the people who invested in them started building up the aura around the paints and then started marketing that, you know. And that's how the whole world went around with this painting.
That's true.
After they died, like M.F. Hussain, for example. I mean, okay, during his time he made, but he's not a painter of painting posters, but somebody promoted him.
Yeah, I think this is also a time of, we are living in a time of play where people are looking to invest. And now they feel that art is a good investment and it's valuable, appreciated. Perhaps that feeling was not there earlier on. And then artists are not, they're not very public relations savvy, I would say. So usually...
Well, Picasso was extremely savvy. He's one of the savviest of all painters. Was not.
Who are you talking about?
Talking about Picasso. Pablo Picasso, very smart.
Yeah.
So.
How many of you have read this book called Lust for Life by Irving Stone?
Yeah, I think I have read also.
I mean, it really delves into the mind of... really delves into Van Gogh's mind and his what all he goes through. No? The way Irving Stone has depicted that is amazing. That guy writes books about people which really give you a complete understanding of both the period as well as the human being. It's amazing. Should look it up.
Largely on, you know, Vincent van Gogh's letters to his brother. You know, so he took it from a collection of letters called Dear Theo, and it's largely based.
There's a movie as well. Is it the same? Is it on the book? With the same name, Lust for Life.
Yeah, so there was
yes,
a book.
Yes, the same.
Starring Kirk Douglas as Vincent van Gogh.
Yeah.
It's an old movie. But they recently made another one called Loving Vincent, which uses his paintings, and they've had something like 64,000 paintings there, which have brought his paintings to life. You know, so it's like a cartoon thing. I'll share it on the group. Just the trailer of the film.
It's on Amazon Prime. It basically deals with the death of Van Gogh, which is beautiful. It's a visual delight because they've all painted in the style of Van Gogh, and the paintings have been made into a movie, some animation, and I think so. It's really lovely.
Is there a link between alienation and creativity, or rather eccentricity, or?
I think all alienated people are not creative, but I think if you're creative, maybe alienation makes you look within yourself. It makes you look at society, nature, the outer world with different perspectives. And since the person is alienated, he doesn't care about society's strictures. I mean, that's what I feel. So he's far more spontaneous. I mean, that is my take on it, because somehow for the rest of us there is always a lot of social pressure. Like whatever we do, we are thinking, I mean, what will so and so say? What will so and so think? And I think we're also somewhat scared to voice all our thoughts and our impressions. And I think when you don't care, then you can say a lot of things that you really, at least that's what I.
A lot of creative license, yeah, that's true.
I just recall 3 years ago at the Cannes Advertising Festival, an art society which wanted to promote consciousness to art, co-created with the public a task saying, create Van Gogh's home. And it created a lot of interest amongst people who read up, saw references, came up with little things, and then finally it opened up as a museum to the public. And it was actually put together not by one organization, but by the sort of patrons of Van Gogh's art. And it was fascinating. That case study is available, maybe one of these sessions, as a follow-through to what she just said about Van Gogh. I'll present that. It's a 5-minute film, but it's exceedingly interesting about, everybody, the public, the art lovers co-creating Van Gogh, his bedroom, his living room, his room where he painted. And then it opened up as a museum.
I think there's a place in I think there's a place in Bruges where they have created whatever Van Gogh wanted to teach and preach. Of course, all in French. We couldn't understand what it was, but it's a very small place, something like the Mozart Museum in Salzburg. But I think for those who understand French, I think, or can read and write, might take a lot to understand what he was trying to say.
Okay, thanks, Sujaya. Let's move on to what Lakshmi has to say. Thank you very much.
Very, very good. Extensive and informative. Very nice.
Lakshmi, all yours.
I've got only 1.5 hours to talk. So I hope all of you have got the time to listen to me. No, but I'll finish first. I'm not quoting from anybody except that I must say a little bit of background about what I'm going to present. Every year we have a granddaughter coming and spending May through June, and she's all of 7.5. And in a normal circumstance, every summer holiday, she's there with us right from the time when she was 1 year old. And wherever we go, last year we had to go to US, and she came with us, participated in triathlon, etc., etc. But unfortunately, it didn't happen this year. So every afternoon, starting from March end, from 2 o'clock to 3:30, she's on a Zoom with us, alternating between me and Raji, discussing various topics each day, ranging from the normal things that you may like to listen to, from about digestive system, circulatory, respiratory, and other systems, as also topics like volcanoes, our galaxy, water conservation, etc., etc., and always Friday is reserved for telling her something about history, and she always likes to hear a story about Akbar and Birbal last. But each day it's a different topic, and she calls it the Tata class. But like all the 7-year-olds, she is super curious, interested, motivated kid. We, of course, have discussed the effects of COVID on many occasions. She had a chance to go through, Raji conducted the poetry festival, World Poetry Festival, and there were kids who presented poems. And somehow she was telling me, she said, Tata, why don't you try to put down, because I've been noting down whatever she's been talking as to her feelings on COVID. So I thought I would just put down, this is in a kind of a poetry form which is basically on what happens during the COVID time. It is for me and, of course, Nandita, our granddaughter. She was the one who started talking, I was the one who tried to put it together. It is lockdown, a child's experience. 1,000 people are going, this is how it goes on. 1,000 people are going towards the mall, but now the streets are empty. The remaining crowd too small. And no trace of life outside, none at all. Every human being is closeted up in their house. Why does our wide world look so desolate now? What a silly question. Even I can have the answer, because there's a roaming monster out there, lurking around every corner here and everywhere, that can make even breathing like hell. They say it's tinier than our cells, but it is causing a huge pandemic. If it enters your body, it may wreak havoc. Coughs or sneezes are like private jet, and to your lungs, it is a threat. We who always used to chat and dine in groups now prefer to stay away. And with a mask on our mouths, nobody is going to school anymore. No child playing in the park, nobody even opening the door or gate, except for grocery or an Amazon date. We used to giggle and play on our swings and slide, and now we are caged in our homes as Corona hovers outside. As the clock ticks and the rooms turn dreary, let's play a board game and Scrabble to while away, and get our grandparents to tell us why of various ways. But as evening nears, out of my window I peek. The sunny playground and the clear blue pool looks bleak. The lone dog owner takes the pet for a stroll. How lucky, I think, after all, not a dog's life. As to me, I feel it is still a privilege to even bask in sunlight these days. I used to pity my dolls trapped up in the shells. Now I really don't know why. Let them enjoy from your room this sunny day. We who are social animals now dread the doorbell. Sadly, we are told to see every visitor as an unwelcome virus. When can we be free? When can we stick our heads out? When will the dawn arrive? Come on, let's await that day. Back to school with all my friends and listen and learn the teachers, and listen and learn in the classroom from teachers, not just listening from preachers. So till then, stick to rules and we are in it together. Let's get rid of this virus forever and forever. So this is what I put together in what she was trying to relate all these 140, 150 days. And it came out because every time she used to keep talking about going outside, till it happened about 4 days ago when they went to Rajasthan. And she couldn't even meet her friends. She had the group of BFF, the best friends forever. But even they couldn't meet, they could only talk. And once, I believe, when they were going down in the park just to take a walk with nobody there, she saw a friend of hers and ran fast towards her, but stopped exactly 6 feet away. And she said, we can only talk, we can't touch. So I think the child's mind, what was going through, was reflected in all those days when she was completely at home. And I just thought I would pen it down for you guys.
Very nice.
Oh, lovely. Lakshmi, there's a hidden poet inside you. Huh?
I'll have to get my granddaughter.
Very nice.
Every poet
Very
has a
good.
muse, and clearly your granddaughter is your muse.
Every poet has a child inside him.
Yeah, Benny, sorry, I missed you.
I said every poet also has a child inside him.
But this child has a very mature poet inside her.
That is because her granduncle is like that. Okay.
Very nice. Very nice.
Okay. So next
Any other thoughts?
You are muted.
Any other thoughts?
No, I just wanted to comment on Sujaya's D.H. Lawrence. It just took me back to my school days because I remember doing D.H. Lawrence in grade 7 and 8. And it just took me back to my classroom. So thank you for that.
You're most welcome.
Yeah, that was a great evening again. Yeah. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Hey, somebody's talking.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Somebody wanted to say something? Okay. Good.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay. Good
I think
night.
internet's gone.
Bye.